I'm the new Director of Membership and Engagement for Kids Chance of America, and I am going to be your host today and also your presenter. So you're stuck with me for 30 or 40 minutes. So I really appreciate you being here. And if anything goes wrong, again, Trina and I are new and we're still figuring everything out. So please put it in the chat box if something happens and you need us to stop or you need help with something. So please speak up. And if you have questions, you can put them in the chat box and we'll address questions at the end. And hope we have some fun. So let's see, I already gave you the reminders. Everybody's muted. Oh, and that's me. So I am fairly new to Kids Chance. I've been here since I started in July, and I am not new to the nonprofit sector. I've been in the nonprofit sector for about 30 years, and I have worked with a lot of boards and a lot of volunteers, thousands of volunteers and thousands of donors over that course of time. And in fact, I have survived the gamut of new technology coming into the nonprofit sector. So I lived through the years of, what is this internet thing? And do you think that we should invest in a website? Or how about Facebook? Is that really something that we should do? And even more recently, is there a way that board members can attend meetings remotely? So that should give you some idea. I have been around a while and have worked with a lot of different people, have gained some tips and strategies over the years that I hope that you will find helpful for your Kids Chance organization. And so today we're going to talk about engagement, which is why I'm here at Kids Chance, in fact. So we're going to be talking about the 8 rules of engagement, and these are my 8 rules that I've created based on a lifetime of experience. And then we're going to be giving you some ideas and examples that hopefully you can use in your organization as you work to enhance and improve your engagement. So we'll start with the question of, what is engagement? It seems a little simplistic, but I think because we're talking about it in terms of the nonprofit sector, it is the process of building relationships to enlist people to your cause. And I believe that engagement is the secret sauce that will make you successful. And it's also very important. It's more important than ever now because we're in such a crowded world where people are overloaded with information. We've got an 8-second attention span. The average American has about 200 emails in our inbox. There is a huge competition for mind share. So in this crowded world, engagement is how we get people to be interested in our organizations. So engagement, if you think about your biggest challenges, I don't know what, you can put them in the chat box if you'd like, what your challenges might be. Although I can't see the chat box. So Trina, you would have to tell me what people are putting. So what's the greatest challenge in your organization? Does anybody have any challenges? Yes, no? No challenges. Gosh, no challenges. Oh, come on. Everybody has challenges. I know it. So engagement is actually, it is the answer that will help you address whatever challenge it is that you might have in your organization. So whether that's you need more money, you need more volunteers, you need board talent, you need to help identify more children. And in fact, your organization's perceived value to the world is all based on engagement. So I'm going to go through the 8 rules of engagement, and we'll start with number 1, know your why. And I know this was actually talked about at the last webinar back in June, but I thought it was really important to mention because it's knowing the mission. And our mission when we're at Kids Chance is pretty clear. but it's also knowing why you're here and being able to combine those two in a way that is enthusiastic and inspiring and enticing to people. And I do think it's the enthusiasm piece that will really carry the day. So to be, be the best cheerleader that you can for your cause, and to know your why is going to help as you're trying to engage other people in the organization. Rule number 2 is to provide engagement pathways. And I've given you all this beautiful little pathway to sandy beach. I'm on Cape Cod, so you can think about going to the beach. And this is the entry point for people. How do we get them on the path to make them aware of our organization? We can do that through events. And I know we were just talking about events as we got started. Your business networking, your speaking engagements, social media, your appreciation events, volunteer opportunities. And then of course, for Kids Chance, we have Awareness Week, Workers Memorial Day, and the Brand Ambassador Program, which I'll touch on again a little bit later. But I want you to keep this image in mind as we go through the presentation, because this is the starting point. How do we get people up this path and into our organization? We have to provide these opportunities for people to engage with us. Rule number 3, know what you want. Again, I said, what is the challenge that you're facing? What is it that you need to solve? So it could be one of these challenges. A strategic plan is very helpful. If you have one, it's a great document that you can use to guide your engagement strategies. But we all have some issues. Excuse me. I have a little exercise I do with myself if I'm trying to figure out exactly what the challenge is that I'm trying to solve. And I call it very simply, flip the gripe. So if you have a gripe about your organization, think about what that is. So I just picked one out here. Our board members aren't engaged and no one is prepared when they come to meetings. So flip it to see what are the actions that you need to take and what's the engagement strategy that you could create to solve that problem. And by flipping it, that helps you understand what are the issues that we need to address. And it's a pretty easy way that I have found to address the challenge and help make that engagement strategy clear as to what needs to be done. Rule number 4, know your audience. Actually, let me go back here a minute. I want to go back to know what you want. I'm going to give you an example of 2 different situations where what I needed to do in engagement strategy were 2 very different things. So one is I launched a cultural center on Cape Cod a few years back, and it's quite a big site, a lot of programs, and there were 2 staff people, myself and a maintenance person. So the challenge I needed to solve, well, there were a lot of challenges, but the first challenge was, how do I get volunteers in to help me run this place and to do all of these things? So I hosted information sessions. I went to church groups and newcomers groups. I identified volunteers. I trained them in a bunch of different jobs. I empowered them, and they helped me launch that place and run it. They then engaged other people, which was the amazing thing about it, because once you get that engagement going, it will grow and it starts to multiply. So they then helped me make the entire project a success because they were vested. Another example is I worked for a human service organization, and we needed to change the business model. The business model had really become irrelevant in the philanthropic world. And so what I needed to do was to engage leaders and help them understand and show them the way so that they could then inspire others and convince others that it needed to be done. So 2 different challenges. I had to know what I wanted in order to be able to create the engagement strategy that would help us get there as an organization. So know your audience. It's not just about knowing what you want as an organization, it's about knowing what your audience wants. And many of you may have read the book, Chestnut Checkers by Mark Miller. I really believe that this is true when we think about our constituents as chess pieces, not checkers. And that helps us to think about deploying people in different ways and understanding what it is they want. So how can you align what they want with what the organization wants? Your expectations have to be in line with what they can offer. And you have to be open about, here are our needs, here's what we need, can you do it, is it a good fit or not? And I'll give you an example of this. There are a lot of organizations that I've worked with who have done capital campaigns. And if you've ever had any experience with a capital campaign, it usually involves some pretty serious fundraising. And I'll walk into an organization and they'll say, well, all of our board members need to be fundraisers. Everybody should raise money. Well, for a capital campaign, that means usually going into somebody's house or office and saying, Linda, we'd like to ask you for a $250,000 gift today. Now, I can tell you, there aren't a lot of people in the world that are truly comfortable with that. So what I say is, think about this as a chessboard. If you have a couple of people, a king and a queen, and they're willing to go ask for money, awesome. Then you still need your rooks. So your rooks can host house parties, and your bishops can do acknowledgements or think about gifts. And everybody has a role to play in the fundraising process, but not everybody is a fundraiser. So think about how you can deploy people differently to address your challenges and to create that impact you are looking to create with your organization. So rule number 5 is provide meaningful things to do. I have never met a nonprofit organization that wasn't understaffed or under-resourced. So there are lots of things that people can do. You remember, you've got them up that path now. You've asked them what they want and what their goals are. Now you've got to provide them with meaningful things to do that align with their goals. So identify tasks, be clear with them, ask for input, so they're being able to create the situation with you and not just be told what to do. So an example of this I'll give you is that I was the director of a historical association for early in my career, and I was the only staff person. And I really felt that this organization could be doing a lot more, that we had an amazing collection, incredible history, and we just weren't engaging people. So what I did was I, again, identified volunteers who could help. Somebody came in and they enjoyed working with photographs. And I said, okay, you're the curator of photographs. And then she brought in a friend and say, hey, my friend's a librarian. Hey, we need a librarian. You're the librarian. And they kept bringing people in. This person likes to do data entry. All right, you are the queen of data entry. I gave everybody titles. I gave everybody training. I empowered them to do the work. And when I left the organization, they did not replace me. It was 2 or 3 years before they hired another executive director, because everybody was just chugging along, doing the work that needed to be done. So that was engagement. And I was very proud of the fact that they were able to just keep going with what they had been taught. So in terms of Kids Chance organizations, There are lots and lots of things, opportunities that you can create to engage people with your organization, whether it's board members, or it's volunteers, or it's donors, or it's your corporate sponsors. There are lots of things. Be clever, creative, give crazy titles if you want to, make it fun. You know, this should be fun for people, especially when you're volunteering your time. Make it fun for people. Lots and lots of ideas here, and I'm sure all of you have even more ideas. So take some time as an organization to think about what are the things that we need to have done, and how can we kind of prepare ourselves to create those as engagement pathways for people. Okay, rule number 6. Set expectations and hold people accountable. So a lot of you work in the business community. You know that when you have a goal, you're more likely to achieve it when you've set a goal. And if you've had a role in helping to set the goal, then it's even better. So just because we're nonprofit organizations doesn't mean we're not businesses. We are absolutely businesses, and we need to be able to establish goals and hold people accountable for them. Just because they're volunteers doesn't mean they can't be held accountable. So again, this is where having a strategic plan is really helpful as you're creating your engagement goals. Make goals achievable, but don't be afraid to stretch them. It would be really sad to set an event goal that you're going to raise $25,000 when you think, in fact, you could raise 40, but you just don't want to upset people or overwhelm people. You'll leave money on the table unless you're willing to stretch. And if you don't make a goal, that's okay. That's going to inform the next goal that you set. So don't be embarrassed when you don't make goals. And then reinforce and report at every meeting, what is your progress towards the goal? So I'm going to give you some examples of goals. The Kids Chance of California. I know we've got Kids Chance of California on the webinar. They set a goal of giving $1 million in scholarships by the end of 2022. They engaged their education community, they engaged their workers' comp communities, and they reached that goal, I think, like 18 months early. They got everybody excited about it, and they really focused on the goal. So that's a great example of setting a goal and then really developing engagement strategies around that goal. Here are some other ideas that you can use. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a big $1 million goal. It can be increase the number of corporate sponsors from 10 to 12, raise a certain amount of money, 100% of corporate partners attend our annual meeting. And this last one, 100% of board members contribute financially. I included that as a goal because actually I think it's a really important goal to have in any nonprofit organization, that all of the board members contribute. And I've actually taken this goal and shown you how I would create some activities in my engagement strategy for how are we going to get to this goal. I believe that raising money is one of the most important things that we do when we're involved with a nonprofit. No money, no mission. That's just the way of the world. So as a board member and even volunteers, I feel strongly that if I'm not willing to donate money, how can I ask anybody else to donate? I don't feel comfortable engaging other people in this cause unless I myself am willing to support the cause. And again, we've got chess pieces here, not checkers. So people are going to be able to donate at different levels. It doesn't have to be everybody's got to donate $10,000. It can be $10. but they have to donate. So if this was my goal, 100% of board members will contribute, then what I would do is I would include this expectation in all of my discussions with potential board recruits. So it's prior to people joining the board, they know what the expectation is. It's in the job description. Then when they come on the board, it's included in the onboarding, so it's reinforced. Then as a board, we're collectively creating a goal at the beginning of the year. So we're creating a goal together that we all agree to and buy into. And then you see this little tally here, this little spreadsheet little chart at the bottom. I have used this with great success at many organizations. And it's a tally of how many board members have given to date. And I would put it at the top of the board agenda so every board member sees it. Now, you may not want to use it every single month. It may be in the months approaching the end of your fiscal year or during your heavy fundraising season, whatever makes sense. But this shows, how are we doing towards our participation goal? And then how are we doing towards our giving goal? And I actually used, because I also encourage staff members to give. So I would do this where I'd have the staff giving and the board giving next to each other. And sometimes the staff would be ahead of the board and it got to be a little bit of a competition. But the board members, it never failed. I put this on the agenda. And then after the meeting, I'd have a whole bunch of people, board members, contact me and say, was it me? Do I need to donate? So it works. And it's an example of how you can set this expectation and then hold each other accountable for it. So we know we want to meet this goal. We want to exceed this goal. We talk about it, we acknowledge it, and everybody's on board. And by gosh, you use something like this and you're gonna get there. Okay, rule number 7, nurture. You've got people in, you've got them up that pathway, you've given them something to do. You can't just walk away and hope for the best. You have to continue to nurture them so that they understand what they're doing. They've got support that they need. They can give you feedback about, hey, I think we should do it this way, or I don't really want to do this anymore. If you have new board members, new volunteers, you may want to assign them a mentor, or if you have corporate sponsors or big donors, or even your students, assigning a liaison is a good idea. So that instead of them having to confront the organization, they only have to know how to contact one person and have a conversation with one person. You've also got to be able to pivot because sometimes we just don't get it right. We think we're aligned. We know what we want. We know what they want. We think we've got it figured out, but it doesn't work. So you've got to be able to pivot when somebody says, this isn't right. Let's say you have a golf tournament and you have a sponsor, and the sponsor gets through the golf tournament and says, Amy, that's really not us. I don't think we'll do it again because it just wasn't a good fit. Then you got to be able to pivot. Why wasn't it a good fit? Tell us more about that. Tell us more about what your goals are and what you'd like to see. Is there something that we do that would be a better fit? So be flexible and be prepared to pivot when you're working on these engagement strategies. And my final rule, rule number 8, this is actually my favorite rule. It's my favorite. And that is show love and appreciation. Lots of it. And frankly, I think one of the reasons that I personally have been successful in the nonprofit sector is because my parents taught me how to write really good thank you notes when I was little. And they instilled in me this idea that you've got to say thank you to people, that you've got to honor whatever it is they've done for you. And all of you know, I'm sure you've had situations where you've received a thank you of some kind and you feel really good about it, and times when you've done something and nobody's acknowledged it. And that does not feel good. And that does not help you continue the kind of engagement that we need to grow our nonprofits. So I'm going to share a few ideas with you about showing love and appreciation as part of your engagement strategies. And I will tell you right off, I have been accused of being very corny, and sometimes going over the top. But nobody has ever said to me, stop, please don't thank me. People like to be thanked. So a few ideas for you. This is a social media shout out that I pulled from Illinois. I don't know if we have Illinois on the webinar today, but I thought this was a great example of how they use these photos from the event, and they're action photos. They show the volunteers working. They show people smiling and engaged and happy. And I've seen some thank you shout outs on social media that are not this successful. You need to get engaging images and pair it with a really sincere message, then tag people. This is great. I love this. Thank you. Also, if you're doing an event, some of you may already do this, but if you're doing something like this was a golf tournament, taking photos of all of your golf teams, or if you're doing a bowling event, your bowling teams, or if you have sponsor tables at your event, taking a photo of the sponsor table with the sponsors behind them, and then using that photo as part of your thank you. So maybe you're popping that in a frame. It's got a thank you label on it, but the image does so much to convey enthusiasm and engagement and excitement. It's way better than just, I'm going to give you a piece of paper to hang on your wall. So those photos can be really a great way to thank people. I once had a gala I did with an organization. Actually, we did it for many years. And we had a backdrop that as people came in, we would have them stop, we would take their photograph. And then when we did the thank you letters after the event was over, we were able to include the photograph of them all dressed up at the gala with the acknowledgement. And people really appreciated that. And it was not hard. It was a pretty easy effort. So that's a way to thank people and engage them. Now here, I don't know, some of you may be in this picture. So ideas that might include board members. And I know I wanted to include this because I know we're all mostly meeting remotely these days. So your board meeting may be on a Zoom. But you can do thank yous from the board members. You can do video thank yous. So if you're doing a Zoom, and I love that this was fun with the fake glasses and noses, I thought it was hilarious. Just think about something fun you could do while you're on a board meeting, on a Zoom call. You can record it. You can use it to do a little video to send to donors to say thank you, to send to your students to say thank you. You can hold up a sign. I'll give you an example here. Now, I'm not suggesting that you have an elephant available to use in your thank you efforts. I just happen to have worked at a zoo, and we deployed our elephants and other animals quite a bit in showing love and gratitude. But what I wanted to do was give you an idea of how you can use signs very simply with photography to create unique thank yous. So if you had the board meeting and the Zoom meeting above, and you said to all the board members, we want you to take a 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and write a thank you message on it. You can print it out, you can write it, you can be creative, whatever. They're all going to be different. And then have everybody hold them up, take a screenshot, and boom, you've got a fabulous photo that you can use in an email, in some way to thank people. And here's another example of that. This would be a student thank you, but you could also do the same thing with the board image we just talked about, and have a message printed on it, and then drop in the signatures of your students. And then you can use these as thank yous for donors. An extra layer of thank yous. I did these with one organization. I had a message printed here, like had used an image that was a mission-driven image on the front. And then I had a pre-printed message here that said, as a board member of such and such organization, I want to thank you for the impact you make on whatever. And then I left this space at the bottom of the postcard for the board member to write a line and then sign their name. Now, for that particular board, I would actually pre-print, I would put the address on it, and I would put a stamp, so it was super easy. But it's a way to get your board involved in doing that extra layer of thank you, because you cannot, if you want to engage people, no matter what community it is, it's your board community, it's your volunteers, it's your donors, it's your students, it's your sponsors, it's the workers' comp network. You can't thank too much. So be clever. And this is my last idea, sticky notes. I don't know why sticky notes are so successful, but I've used this sticky note, "We are grateful for you," in social media posts before, and it makes you stop scrolling. People see it. I've also used it a lot on letters, whether it's to sponsors or donors. It makes people stop and look, and it's a great engagement tool. Also, silly awards. I really am the queen of silly awards. So if ever you need an idea for a silly award, please contact me because I can help you out. I had one board, very high profile business people, lots of suits on this board. And we had a December board meeting and I did silly gifts for everybody. I think I maybe spent $20 on these gifts, and everybody got one that was related to the contribution they had made that year to the organization. And you would have thought that I had given them a brand new car, each and every one of them. They were so excited. I didn't need to spend a lot of money on a big gift. All I needed to do was buy, oh, what happened? Okay, here we are. Sorry about that. All I needed to do was buy Thin Mints and put a little thank you tag on them, and that really did the trick. And I tell you, we left there feeling like, as an organization and as a team, we were doing the right thing. We're getting it done. We're making a difference and having an impact. So silly things, but anything you do to thank people is greatly appreciated. So those are the 8 rules. I'm going to end with the Brand Ambassador Program. This was created really to help the states have an engagement pathway. So what we've tried to do is say, here you go, here are some ideas for how you can get people started up that path of engagement. And we have a brand ambassador guidebook that some of you may have seen, and I think Trina can pop the link into the chat box, but you can download the entire guide. But we've also created this one pager, and it has clickable links. I have this as a PDF that I can send to you, and it's easy. But this is how we get engagement, is all of us who are in the sort of the inner circles. If we do this, then we start to get critical mass and it starts to grow. And the more people we engage as 50 states and a national, so 51 of us, the more we can engage, then the more impact we're going to be able to have both individually and collectively. And I know I happen to be an artist as well as a nonprofit professional. And I know when I started my art profile on Instagram, I thought engaging those first 200 people was just a lot of work. But what I found was once I hit a critical mass, then it just started going. And I didn't have to do so much anymore because now other people were doing it. So it's just, as I said, with the cultural center, when I engaged the volunteers and got them involved, and then they started engaging everybody. Engagement is contagious. And we can, working together, create more and more engagement, bring more people up the path, and create a critical mass so that we can all do more. And I will say that we've created a little 5 to 10 minute presentation that we'd love to offer to all of the state boards. So if you're interested, let me know and we'll organize that with you. Just so we can easily walk people through. We're not asking people to take time and do a lot of extra stuff, but within a board meeting, take 10 minutes, we can do some of these things and really make some progress on building the brand and engaging. So these are the 8 rules of engagement. I think if you follow these, whether it's you're addressing a challenge, you're trying to create an engagement strategy with a particular audience or community, you're working on your social media strategy, I think these 8 rules have worked for me and with great success in building a lot of different organizations. I think that they will work for you too. So I thank you for listening. You can reach me at admin@kidschance.org, and I'm happy to share ideas. I'd love to hear your ideas and help you be able to engage your constituents and grow your impact. So I'm going to stop sharing now. I just want to remind you that our next webinar is Tuesday, October 26th at 3 p.m. And that's going to be Vicki talking about year-end giving. And that is just in time for year-end giving. So do we have any questions from folks or ideas? Yeah, I see some of these and not active board members. Yeah. Yep. And I do think that that creating shared goals and then developing some mutual accountability and making that public will help. Another strategy that I've used for many years is personally, if I'm in a meeting, I try to make sure that everyone in the meeting says something. Because you have, you sometimes have the shadow, you sometimes have the shadow board members who kind of come and they lurk. But if you go out of your way to engage them, and again, you give them something to do, you hold them accountable, and they will, I'm sorry, Trina just messaged me and now I'm distracted. But including people in the meetings, really kind of forcing the issue and saying, hey, Tom, what do you think? What do you think? That kind of forces the engagement. Also, think about maybe putting something on your board agenda, like a discussion question, so that you have time where we're not just having reports about what people are doing, but we have time to actually do some discussion. And then that's an opportunity where you can try to draw people out. And I'm happy to, we can dive into this board issue a little further on future webinars, or be happy to talk to anyone individually. It's an ongoing issue with nonprofit organizations. that sometimes you have board members that aren't engaged. The onboarding process and the recruitment process is very important to make sure you're not getting people who really aren't committed to the organization. So, do we have any other questions? We do have a survey that will be going out asking you just how we did. Be kind. This is Trina and I's first time, so just be kind. And I'm interested in your ideas for future webinars and also your ideas for how we can best support you in your efforts at the state level. So it's good. You can get me while I'm brand new. I am eager to please. Please tell me what you'd like to see from us, and we will do our best to make it happen. And I am here to help. So the recording of this will be up on the YouTube channel in a couple of days. If you know somebody you'd like to have listen to it, maybe you have some board members that weren't able to make it that you think could benefit from listening, or some volunteers. So please feel free to use that. And of course, a lot of other great webinars already on the YouTube channel. So if there are no other questions, I think we'll sign off. And again, thank you so much. I want to express my gratitude and my appreciation to you for being with us today, and for all that you do for your Kids Chance organizations and for helping kids meet their educational goals. It's important work, and you should be proud of what you make possible. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Amy. Enjoy the rest of the week. Bye-bye.